Well, y'all know we are a young church. We are just getting established. We're still figuring out what defines us as a body of believers, particularly. And one of the things that a lot of y'all know is we've been praying for, especially since the turn of the new years, we've been praying for some opportunities, some chances for us to get involved in the community. For example, this past Thursday, some of y'all came out and we helped with the special needs dance that happens every month at the Siler City Senior Center. What a wonderful ministry that Chatham Trades does, and it's a good opportunity for us to be able to serve. And so some of y'all came out and got to be reminded of that, got to be introduced to what all that has to do with everything. But as I was praying, and a lot of y'all know we go to the coffee shop a lot for our Wednesday night Bible studies, and I kept looking across the road at this place called Communities and Schools. And I don't know if you're familiar with Communities and Schools. If you're not, you will be after this morning, right? We are, but the Lord led me through a couple different conversations and really burdened me to go and start talking with them about how Freedom Family Church can be a blessing to them, and how in turn they could continue to be a blessing to Chatham County. They have done some amazing things over the years in Chatham County, and have been doing, they're not a church, but they do the work of what a church is supposed to do, which is to get into those situations that are sometimes sticky, sometimes uncomfortable, but where there's a real need in Chatham County. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about where we're supposed to be. What is our part in this? And so before I have Ms. Sherelle come up here, I wanted to establish a couple things with you, because again, we're going to be if God continues to lead the way he is, we're going to be a major partner, or they're going to be a major partner for us in the life of our church as a way that we can reach into the community. And so you may be wondering why, like why them? Why are we doing this? Why can't you just go and set up every Sunday? We've just finally got this whole setting up on Sunday thing down pat, and we can do church like everybody expects church to be. So why would we do that? Well, simple answer is John 13:34, where Jesus says, love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. It's a simple command. And it's the reason that we're doing this. And again, along with loving God, loving other people is the most important thing that we can get right. You know, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, a lot of sermons that I could preach about how to have a better this, or how to do this, or but the most important thing that we can do, hands down, before we worry about anything else, is have we loved God and have we loved other people? It's so important for us to get that right. And 1 John 3:18 continues by saying, little children. By the way, he's not talking to little children. He's talking to church people when he says, little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. The New Suggs translation says this: talk is cheap. Show me something, right? Show me. You can tell me you love me all you want, but it should show in your actions. And so when nobody, I don't think, is arguing, we need to love people, and you're like, no, that's not biblical. No, why would God want? No, we kind of all hopefully are on board with that we should love people. But Jesus says, listen, you gotta show it. God says, I need to see it in your actions. And so I want us as a church to love Siler City, to love Chatham County in talk and in walk, right? We need to love them with our words and love them with our actions as well. Because this is the truth. And this is a blank on your sheet if you want to follow along. Our actions reflect our faith to other people. Our actions are a reflection. They show our faith to other people. When you call yourself a person of faith, when you tell people that you are a Christian and you identify with our church or you identify with Jesus, that is reflected in your actions. Jesus goes on to say, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Right? That's going to be where the proof is in the pudding, is how you love people. Not where you are on Sunday, not what words you say or don't say, or what music you listen to or don't listen to, or any of these other things that we add to it. quite simply, how we love people. That's how we let the world know who we follow. James 2:17 goes on to say, you see, faith by itself is not enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. If your faith doesn't affect the rest of your life, it's a useless, worthless faith. If your faith doesn't make you different than your friends in action, in everyday life, then your faith has no value. I want us to have a faith that reflects the awesomeness of our God, that reflects the kingdom that we are a part of. And so today is all about us trying as a church body to walk obediently to those commands. For us to say, yes, we know it, and now we're going to do something about it. Because, again, head knowledge is not enough. We have to make sure that we're walking these things out. And I really believe that you have the potential today to bring joy to the heart of our Creator. I think depending on how we respond to these situations, how we respond to these calls, it can bring joy to the heart of Jesus. You're like, well, how do you know that? That's a very specific thing. Well, look at the heart of Jesus in Matthew chapter 19. We're just going to read verses 13 through 15. It says this. One day, some parents brought their children to Jesus so that he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. But Jesus says, let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of heaven belongs to those that are like these children. And he placed his hand on their heads and blessed them before he left. You know, one of the things I notice Jesus does all the time is he takes expectations and he turns it on their head, right? Right. All the religious people of the day, one of the things they like to do is they like to get out and they like to pray loudly and talk about how good they are and pray in these complicated things in front of people. And Jesus goes, no. You go to your prayer closet. You pray humbly. You don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. You do your good deeds in secret, right? That's because that's how Jesus works. The world says that the mighty and the strong and the powerful rule, but in God's kingdom, it's the meek that will inherit the earth. It's the last that become the first when it comes to the kingdom of God. And here's another situation, because in those times, kids literally didn't count. Like when they counted, when they took censuses, is that the plural censi? I don't know. When they did a census, right, they didn't really even count the kids. Like, remember we were talking a few weeks ago about the, Jesus feeding the 5,000 with the fish and the loaves, and it said 5,000, not people, 5,000 men, 5,000 families, because they didn't even count the women. They didn't even count the children. That was the world that Jesus was operating in. And so, by the way, I can see the temptation. I can understand and relate to the disciples going, all right, go away, kid. Like, we're doing big things here. This is Jesus we're talking about. Leave us alone. We got important stuff to do, right? Jesus knew he had work to do, and you would think that he would just kick them off to the side. I realize that's a bad analogy when we literally just kick the. That's not what I'm saying. But Jesus said, no, wait. I want the kids to come to me. I want you to pay attention to those little things. And so God's big picture is full of little moments with little people. The big picture. Jesus, obviously, with all he had going on, he still took the time to bend down, to take a moment, and to engage with the kids. You wonder why Freedom Family Church does so much across our 3 campuses for the kids, why we put all this money and effort and manpower into 3 Easter egg hunts around the area, why we do kids trips to the park and kids this and kids that. It's because that's the heart of Jesus, is to bend down, is to get on their level and to engage them in where they are. They're not less important than us, and Jesus knew that. And God's big picture is full of little moments with little people. With that being said, though, I want to start figuring out how we walk this out, how we make this a reality in our church. And so today I'm really excited to bring in Miss Sherelle, my belle, who is, I've had some very challenging, encouraging, exciting, stirring conversations with her. We kind of take all afternoon when we talk, don't we? Well, let's just meet for a minute, and then we end up. Beep, 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 beep. But I love her heart. I love the heart of communities and schools. This is an organization that I really feel been a burden on my heart to become a part of as our church and do what we can to help out with kids all over Chatham County. So, Miss Sherelle, why don't you come up? Give her a round of applause. She's going to talk to you and show you the vision of communities and schools.
I have worked at communities and schools for almost 20 years. And it's amazing how God works. I was a youth leader at my church and decided I wanted to do something different, get away from children. And I went to my pastor and said, I want to resign from the youth department and I want to do something else. And he said, have you prayed about it? And I said, no, I just want you to get somebody else to work with the kids. And he said, I tell you what, you pray and I'll pray. And it wasn't long after that I started working with communities and schools, which was called Chatham County Together at that time. And I became a foster parent. And so I had all this other stuff going on. And then one Sunday I just thought about it, and I went to, my pastor's name was Reverend Obi, and I went to him and said, what do you think? Should I give it up? Did God answer your prayer? And he said, did he answer yours? And I'm like, no, I hadn't heard from him. And he said, I think you have if you just think about it. And he said, there's a reason that you have all these children in your life. And you just need to pray about it and go forth with it. So needless to say, I'm still a youth leader at my church. I've fostered for 12 years, and I've been at communities and schools for 20 years. And it's something about the population of people that we serve that really touches your heart and really puts you in touch with God. We get referrals from all over the county for children who have been identified as needing some extra support, whether it's academic, it's emotional, or just someone that can check in with them daily or once a week to see how their week is going. And when we look at these families and we look at these children, they haven't been raised like I was raised. I was brought up in the church. I knew right from wrong. I might not have always done the right thing, but I knew right from wrong. Some of these children have never had the opportunity to go to church, so they don't know what it's like. Some of our children associate relationships with hurt because in their families, that's what the relationships have shown them, that if you love somebody, they hurt you. And it's left up to us to show them different. So what part of my job is to go out and recruit adults just like yourself to be role models. And it doesn't mean you have all the answers, but it means that you can expose them to some positive things. It's your opportunity to let God's love show. And some of these kids have no idea what that is. And if you start talking God to them, they immediately shut you out. But it's the action, as Ben said earlier. Love is an action word, and it's not the words, but it's the action. These kids have been promised a lot of things from folks that is going to be there for them, going to take care of them, going to provide for them, and it never happens, or it doesn't happen all the time. So for you to come in, or for me to come in and say, I'm here to be your friend, and I'm going to show you other options, it doesn't mean a lot to them until I start showing up. And there are some tests sometimes, you get the behaviors, but some of them is just to see if you're going to stick it out. So it definitely requires a relationship with God. The second thing is, children's not everybody's ministry. Everybody can't work with kids. That's not your gift. So I encourage everybody to pray and ask God, what is my gift? What is my ministry? What is it I can do to better the kingdom of God? And if children are your gift, then figure out ways you can help our children, because our children are hurting. Last week, I went and had a lunch, Pittsburgh Elementary, with one little girl in 4th grade. I ended up with 6 kids at my table, and all of them were trying to talk to me at one time. And one of them practically demanded that I find her a lunch buddy because she needs somebody to come have lunch with her, and asked her how she's doing. And I said, well, honey, can your mom come and have lunch with? She said, no, she won't do it. And something as simple as going to school and having lunch, it was 25 minutes out of my day. And so they had to make me promise that I would come back, and now I'm obligated to do that because I promised I would be back. I got 7-8 weeks left of school. Chatham County schools, y'all get out much earlier here. To do that. But it's just so important, one, that we keep our word, and two, we take the opportunity to expose these young people to God's love and just being open to the challenges you may face, the challenges you may see within our young people, and like I said, taking the opportunity to show God's love. So I come to list off a couple of volunteer opportunities with communities and schools. We have been in existence since 1989. That year we mentored 5 kids. 29 years later, we serve over 200 kids through the different volunteer opportunities that we have. So we're trying to make a difference in this community. We're trying to show God's love. And it's funny because a lot of my coworkers are not Christians. And I laugh because when I tell them they're doing ministry work and they're doing mission work, they just kind of look at me. And I was like, you are. Because you're showing love to someone that's not like you, someone that can be difficult to love, someone that comes from challenging situations, someone that does not look or like you look or imagine, or what's the word I was looking for? It's not imagine. I don't know. Anyway, somebody different with different family values. And you have this opportunity to show them some good, show them some positive, and make an impact on their lives. And you don't think you do. I have volunteers that have mentored the same kid from kindergarten to high school graduation. And they become a part of your family. And that's what we want. We want you to bring these kids into your family and expose them to all the good things that are going on. Are our lives always good? No, there's some bad things. But they need to know that there's hope, and that just because you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Just because you have a bad day, you don't give up. We have to get up every morning. They need to learn that regardless of the situation, you have to get up every morning. Your first song, I was thinking about how it fits in with this. And the words she said before she sung, everything's not always rosy for us. Some of the kids look at you and think you're rich and you got everything, and life is just sweet for you. And you don't understand where they're coming from because they don't have enough food to eat, or their mom or dad stayed out all night, or stayed up drinking. They think it's rough. They need to learn from us that it's not always rosy. But you know what? We have hope because Jesus is alive. And because he is alive, there is hope. And we don't give up. We might get knocked down, but we get back up. And that's what life is about. We don't give up. We get up and continue moving forward. And through what you can offer, what your church can offer, they can learn that lesson and keep moving forward and learn how to, at some point, reach back and help somebody else, because that's what we're doing. We're reaching back and helping somebody else. So the volunteer opportunities that we have is after-school tutoring, 1 to 2 hours a week, one-on-one mentoring, 4 hours a month or 1 hour a week, group mentorings, which what Ben and I talked about, where 2 or more adults take a small group and work with them 4 hours a month. We have a community service youth, and those for the young people, those are mostly teenagers who have made some poor choices and gotten in trouble with the law and now have been assigned community service. We have a community garden a lot of our kids work in, and then we have some work sites at animal shelters, no-kill zones, stuff like that, where they can go. So it's not being punitive. It's we're teaching them, and we're showing them love and what it takes to make it. So the garden, the shelters, the food pantry is about giving back to your community. health and wellness after-school activities at Chatham Middle School. They're doing a yoga group right now and a cooking group. Yes. And then there's the Lunch Buddy program that I mentioned earlier. I look at my children because that must be my time is about up, because if you have sibling, you know how little kids are. They start passing licks after about 7 minutes. So that means my time's about up. But I just wanted to come and encourage you to get involved. And if this is not for you, there are other programs and other things you can get involved with that could help this community and show God's love to those people who don't know God and are wandering around lost. This is a golden opportunity for us. At my church, I talk about mission work all the time because this is mission work. We think about going overseas and helping people in Haiti and those third world countries, but there's mission work right here in our own town that can be done. And that's what this is, mission work, because we want to show God's love and help those less fortunate than ourselves. All right? Thank you so much for this time.
I wanted to wrap up with a couple thoughts, because after hearing from her what Communities in Schools does, and after taking that and taking what God has commanded us, the question really is why wouldn't we? Right? Why wouldn't we as a church get involved with this? Why wouldn't we be a part of this? What would hold us back from doing that? And so I've got a couple more blanks I just wanted to point out, because I like to make sure that we don't let the enemy take away anything that God has given us so far today. You see, there's a couple different reasons why we wouldn't get involved, and I'll make sure that I explain some of these. But first off, it could be because we're distracted, right? I don't know about you, but probably the biggest reason we're not already involved is because I get distracted very easily. We live in a world where there's a lot going on, and the enemy knows that he can distract us with good things and keep us from God's things. That's a good way to get us off track. And so my prayer for us overall, but especially when it comes to this, is 1 Corinthians 7:35. It says, I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as few distractions as possible. This is going to help us serve the Lord. And so don't get distracted. Don't get forgetful. Don't be out of sight, out of mind. That's why after we pray and dismiss, Sherelle's going to stand by the door with some information for you so that you won't forget, so that you won't walk out and go, oh, yeah, I forgot all about it. I was going to get involved. No, we're going to have something to remind you. But it also could be because we're selfish. Let's be honest. The reason that there's really no excuse why Communities in Schools should be turning away people for helping, because they're too full. But that's not the case, because we're selfish. Philippians 2:4 has to remind us, don't look out for only your own interest, but take an interest in others too. That's what we're doing here. We're not just looking out for number one. We're thinking about, because guess what? We could there's things we want to do with our time and with our resources and with our energy for us. But every once in a while, God calls us to do that for other people. And I'll tell you this, if it was our kids in this situation, we would want somebody to do that. If it's your kids that needed encouragement, if it was your kids that needed a friend, if it was your kids that needed all these things, yeah, we would be moved, wouldn't we? We'd be burdened by that, because we naturally do that. Well, I want us to be looking out for their interests as well, but also could be because we're numb. You know, the world is full. If I try not to watch the news anymore, because I just get depressed. I just get frustrated. We almost have to build in a mechanism to numb ourselves, because there's so much going on that we want to fix, isn't there? There's so much people you want to help, so many situations and tragedies. Well, sometimes we just get numb. But Matthew 18 says that Jesus called this little child to him, and he put the child among him, and he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf, is welcoming me. Jesus is saying, in order for us to get saved, by the way, we have to become like a child. We have to have childlike faith. We have to be adopted into God's family, and we are his children to even get the kingdom of heaven. And so Jesus is saying anytime we do this, anytime we welcome kids that might not have the best behavior, that we might not know from Adam on the street, that we don't have a vested interest in, but we welcome them in our midst, and we love them, and we serve them, and we do for them, we're doing that to Jesus. If Jesus walked through the door, we would be fawning over him, wouldn't we? We're like, Jesus, I told you he had Pantene Pro V hair. Look at that hair. We're like, Jesus, come on in. Seat of honor. Here, have a snack. Here's a Bible. I mean, you wrote it, but here you go. You know, like, we would be treating Jesus good. Jesus says anytime we do this for the children's, we're doing it to him. That's motivation enough for me. And so I'm going to be a little bit meaner than Sherelle, because all this is what Christians do. When we don't want to do something, we go, well, I don't feel led to do this. I don't feel, I've prayed about it, and which really means you go, okay, no, okay. All right. You're like, you ask God, but you don't wait for the answer, right? That's kind of like Sherelle's testimony there of her ministry. She's like, I'm good, right? I'm good. Oh, wait, I heard from God, and he told me, right? And so if you come and say, I just don't have a heart for kids, you better get out of here with that noise. I don't want to hear it. Because you know what? You may not be called to be a one-on-one mentor. You may not have the bedside manner. You may not have the patience. I understand that. That doesn't mean you can't be involved. That doesn't mean you can't facilitate. That doesn't mean you can't serve them a piece of pizza or whatever. You know, it doesn't mean you can't be a part of an event we do for them. It doesn't mean you can't financially support communities and schools, or financially give above and beyond what we do here with your tithe, right? Maybe you're like, you know what, I don't know if I can handle going one-on-one with these kids, but I just got my tax return. So maybe I'm going to give an offering, right? If you want to write an offering check, and just make sure you put communities and schools, we'll send it right on out the door to them. You can write it. She'll take your money right now if you want to. I'm just saying, get involved. This is not a maybe thing. This is you got to figure out what way you're going to get involved. If you're not being a part of letting the kids come to you, if you're not being a part of being a blessing to children somewhere, then this is for you, right? And so we want Hebrews 13:16 to be a reminder for us. It says, don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. Those are the sacrifices that please God. Will it be a sacrifice? Yeah, buddy. You can ask Sherelle. Sacrifice, free time, patience, weekends, whatever. There's all sorts of things that you sacrifice. But will it be worth it? Absolutely. She wouldn't still be in there 20 years if it wasn't worth it. It's going to be worth it for us because it will please God. And God will bless us in turn for that. And so, as we close in prayer today, here's my hope. My hope is that you will pray about how. Not if, but how. Right? How are you going to be a part of loving kids in Chatham County with the love of Jesus? And then over the next little bit, we're going to be rolling out some specific opportunities. We've already talked about stuff like neighborhood vacation Bible schools during the summer, where we go to the different neighborhoods, just set up shop and throw down some Jesus in the park, in the neighborhood, wherever. I've already taken some steps to figure out how we can host more kids on Sunday mornings to be a part of the church service. Maybe you want to bring, if you've got kids around a certain age, maybe you adopt in and mentor a kid that's about the same age, and then just take them. By the way, the best ministry, I've noticed this, the best moments of ministry are as you go, right? Like the best conversations, the best teachable moments, the best moments where you can show the love. It's not like you have to cancel all your weekend plans. If you're going shopping, take them shopping with you, right? If you're going to visit family, take them with you. It's just to be able to start these relationships that will be a mirror of God's love to them. That's what this is about. And so I want you to pray. Pray as I pray. Continue to pray. Get some information from Sherelle as she walks out as y'all leave today. But just make sure that you're being obedient to what God's calling you to do this morning.